Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Diaries of a 20-something. I'm Paige Marquez, your host, and today we're talking about everything I wish I knew before I was 20. This episode is dedicated to all of my sister's friends who watch all the time because they are all turning 20 this year or recently just turned 20. So let's get right into it. Before I was 20, and even in my teenage years, I always thought 20 was really old. I mean, it sounds old. You know, you're going into your second decade of life. There's no more teen at the end of your age, and it can be a little bit scary. It can be a little bit intimidating. And I am here to tell you that it is. And it is even scary now, and I'm 22. So 20 doesn't sound like a kid. And I will be honest, the difference between 19 and 20 is really different in the sense of how people treat you, because people really stop treating you like a kid, you know, like it just sounds different. They're not going to have as much sympathy with you, and they shouldn't, but it is very much a harsher transition, I would say. And the thing is, being in your 20s, a lot of things change, but a lot of things don't. And I don't have an older sister. I am the older sister. And sometimes I wish I did have an older sister to talk about these things with and just to have a little bit of a warning. Reagan, my little sister, is very lucky to have an older sister, especially one that is so drastically different, because we really do get to see so many aspects of life and be able to compare and contrast them, especially in the way that we view things and the way that we react to things is extremely different. So we do have a lot of balance when it comes to that sense, and I'm really grateful for it. And I want to start this off with where I was when I was 19, turning 20. When I was 19, I was a finance major at the University of Florida. I went into it for the wrong reasons. I have a very big goal for myself to always be financially secure and never have to worry about money and everything, which is great. It's a great goal to have, but it shouldn't be everything. And that's what I realized. You know, I wasn't doing good in school, mainly because I wasn't interested in it, and it was hard for me to apply myself when I wasn't interested in it. And it really did have such a drastic effect on how much I was putting into school and how much I was getting out from it, which was virtually nothing. So I decided to switch my major to journalism, which is something that was always a hobby of mine. I was like, you know what? Let me just try and be a writer. So I know I want to be a writer. I know I want to be in media, but I didn't like news. I didn't like investigative journalism. I wasn't really into the filming aspect, like the production side of media. So I decided to go into the magazine writing realm, which I love. You know, like I love magazines. I love reading magazines. I love what a magazine, like a physical hard copy of a magazine, encompasses, you know, like when you think about Vogue or Marie Claire or the New Yorker, the Harper's Bazaar, those are all magazines that I dream of writing for. I know it takes a lot to get there, like I'm aware of that, but I'm also very secure in my experience. My point is that if you want to switch your major, do it. I know it's going to set you a little bit behind, but if you do it early enough, around like 19, sophomore year, it's really not going to mess up your track that much, because honestly, like everything's just going to go to like elective credits. Switching your major can only be a thing that really sets you back if you do it super late and something drastically different. Like if it was from like business to journalism, if I did that my junior, senior year, I would have been really, really behind. I did a full course load every single semester to make sure that I would still graduate on time with the rest of my class. I didn't want to be late. I didn't want to be early either. I really just wanted like the complete 4 years of college. I'm really happy that I did. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I ended up graduating in spring. Changing my major was the best decision I ever made. I think like to this date, I'm trying to like think, because of all the decisions I've made, I think that one was the most important. I just wanted to share that with you and let you guys know that it's okay to hate what you're doing in school. And if you hate it, just change it. Talk to your advisors, just change it and you will be fine. But also a thing that becomes really relevant in college is networking, internships, and, you know, just like the overall scope of gaining experience. And when it comes to networking, I would just say, get really comfortable just walking up to people and just saying hello. go. Like, it's really scary at first. I'm an extrovert. I am someone who is very easy to talk to, and it's very easy for me to make conversation. How do I say this? Except if you're somebody that is like older and wiser and like somewhat authoritative over me, I get really nervous about it. And that's okay, but you get comfortable with it. Like, just go to the career fairs. Like, literally just walk around. You don't even have to talk to anybody. Just go, get comfortable with the scene of it. They know that you're nervous. It is okay. But 90% of the time, they are so great to talk to, and they give you so much good insight about like your career path, what they do, like the scope of everything that like your major encompasses, because you really don't realize, or I didn't, at least when I first switched to journalism, I didn't realize how much of the world was journalism until, I started getting internships and working in a newsroom, working in digital journalism. I just wasn't aware of it, and you learned so much. So that is what I will say about networking. Networking is so important, and it's so much easier when you're in this part of your life, especially when you're in college versus when you're not. Networking is so much easier when you're in college, and I didn't really realize that until I left college. In college, you have all of these events and advisors and professors, mentors, just like surrounding you completely. It is so much easier to form a connection with somebody than when you leave college, because especially when you're not working, because you don't really have those events to go to. You don't really have a mentor. You don't have a boss. You don't have coworkers, like it's just like kind of just left in the dust, to be honest with you. And it sucks. But when it comes to internships and gaining experience, literally apply for everything, because I will tell you, how do I put this? I will tell you, actually doing something versus studying it is very different and looks very different. Like, I'm telling you, I was never into sports, not to a level where I would work in sports, but my first internship was with the local ESPN network. It was in Gainesville, and I learned so much, and it was actually a lot of fun for me. And yeah, I didn't really like sports, but I gained so much experience, and I learned how a newsroom worked, power dynamic between a boss and yourself, just like the totem pole of everything. Like, I learned how to do radio broadcasting, which was really cool. Literally apply for everything and take every opportunity possible, because I'm telling you, I have 2 internships under my belt, and I still don't feel like that was enough. Just do everything that you possibly can. Never let up. Never stop trying. Never stop applying for things, because I'm telling you, you will be so happy with yourself when you leave college, because when you start a career, you're going to be so much more prepared, and it's not going to be as scary, especially if you're interning not remotely, like on site. You're going to have so much more experience and already have an understanding of how whatever field you're in works. So that's what I would say about that. Learn wherever you can, however you can, because literally there is a lesson in everything. You just have to look for it. It's going to sound so cliche and lame, but finding your passion early on is something that really does help you later. I always liked sharing my ideas, and I think that is a passion of mine. Like, I write about things I'm thinking about. I podcast about things I'm thinking about. And even like this podcast is a great example. Like, don't even think about what anyone else thinks. Like, I promise you, I'm sure some people are like, oh my God, like, she started a podcast. She thinks that she's this. She thinks that she's that. I literally don't care. I'm doing what I like to do. I'm doing it because I enjoy it. There is no better time to do something that you love than when you're in your 20s. I'm telling you, because you're never going to have this much time in the world. Even like when you're starting your career, it's very entry level. Your jobs aren't going to be like crazy demanding. So just put things towards other passions. Diversify. You have to diversify yourself as much as you can, but make sure you're enjoying it. And I promise you, I'm like, yes, having a podcast is a lot of work. I'm working at least 6 hours a day between podcasting, editing, planning episodes, applying for jobs, writing for CKTH. I literally work 6 hours a day at least, and I don't even have a job yet. And I'm working for free, but I don't even care because I love it. I'm telling you, just do it. If you want to do something, just do it. Start that social media page, post as much as you want, start that podcast, whatever, like, just do it. But also just be prepared to not get a job immediately, because I'm telling you, it has nothing to do with your qualifications or your experience. I mean, it might, but it has so much more to do with the fact that everybody is also trying to get a job in the same space with the same kind of experience, with the same kind of qualifications, and it is competitive. to say the least. I don't care what career field you're in, it's competitive and it's underpaid. But that's just what you have to do to break into it. I'm a person that wishes that I had an older sister in a sense when it comes to financial reasons, because I didn't really know how important it was to start saving your money and investing like at a young age. Like, I've never been the most financially smart person in the world. I do invest my money. I am like in stocks and stuff. That's probably the smartest financial decisions I make, is that. I do save a lot of money, but I will say save as much money as you can and start investing young. I'm telling you. I mean, this economy is a little whack, I will say. I started investing like the day I turned 18. I got a bunch of bonds from my godfather, and me and my mom went to cash them. I put them into stocks immediately. And my stock portfolio has grown like over 150% over the years. And I'm telling you, like, invest your money. Like, I know it's scary, but I'm telling you, you'll make a lot more than you lose. You just have to be smart about it. Just go in with it with an open mind. Watch some YouTube videos about it, read about it, whatever. It's really not that hard to understand, and it's so amazing. Love investing. I know so many people that don't invest their money. I only actually know a couple people that do at my age. But that's the thing, like, being in your 20s, it's about being young, being reckless, having as much fun as possible, but like, just make sure you're not being young and reckless about the important things like finances, relationships, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Have fun, do whatever you want, take those shots, spend a day being hungover, whatever you want to do, but like, never get young and reckless about the things that matter. I'm telling you. Please don't. It will hurt me. But also, in your 20s, there is relationships with your friends, with boys, men. Relationships are so important in your 20s because they teach you so much, and it can be so hard to navigate because everyone is so focused on themselves and growing with themselves, and it can be hard to decipher what is selfish and what is not. I'm just going to tell you guys a couple things that I have learned so far since being 20. I wrote a list of specific things that I have noticed. I promise you, this will be life-changing. Okay, this is kind of going off my last episode. I know I mentioned this, but if you are not happy in a relationship with a man or a friend, literally just leave. You are not obligated to stay friends with somebody that is going to bring you down or not make you feel good. Like, life is really too short. Like, it really is. And you realize that in your 20s. Once you hit 20, or just as you get older in general, the years go so much quicker than the last. I cannot believe it's July already. You cannot tell me I'm going to be 23 in 5 months. Like, that doesn't even make sense. This one is also really good. If you wouldn't trust them with your wallet, don't trust them at all. Think about it. Trust is so big and it's so hard to navigate, especially because in this day and age, everybody has trust issues, and that's fine. So yeah, that's something that's actually something that I've been following for a long time. And yes, I've like grown apart from a lot of friends, but I think it's for the better. Just because you're growing apart from your friend, just because you have less friends than you used to, doesn't change anything about you. It just means that you're allocating your time towards people that actually deserve to be around you. Another thing is, a lot of things that you don't like about other people are actually things that are a part of you as well. And this one comes with a lot of self-reflection, but I've noticed, I'll be like, oh my God, like, I hate how much like that girl talks about like, body image issues. And then it's like, I realize like you talk about it all the time too. And like, it's not always a bad thing, but it's just something that I've grown to be really aware of. And I think that you will as well, especially in your 20s, especially if you're unemployed, because you have a lot of time on your hands to think about everything. Another thing, which I feel like is common sense, but I did not really realize it until recently, actually, is some people really just don't mature. There are some people that I know that have the maturity level of like, someone beginning of high school, and it's like, I tend to distance myself from those people. I can't be around people that are just always starting issues in friendships and starting issues with people around them. Like, I just can't deal with really combative people. And some people just really don't mature, like within their relationships, within their finances, within like just like their own moral compass. Like, you just realize that a lot of people are really immature, and it's almost like you're maturing throughout your life, and then some people just get left behind and they get stagnant at a certain spot. And it's kind of sad, actually, to be honest. Another thing is, like I mentioned like a little bit ago when I was talking about following my passion, people are not thinking about you as much as you think they are. Like, they really aren't. Think about how often you think about people you've met in your life, people that like aren't as close with you. Do you think about them often? No. So they're not thinking about you either. And I don't mean that in a harsh way. And honestly, like, if anybody is thinking about what you're doing or who you are in a negative light, like, their opinions just shouldn't matter. And that's another thing as well. In your 20s, you get really comfortable not caring, or at least I did. And I think that that's a positive thing. But at the same time, you kind of put up a wall in the process, or I did. So there's good and bad to it for sure. But as long as you're aware of it, I think it's okay. Another thing is popularity and just like being well liked and being well known really doesn't matter at all. Like, once college is over, especially when college is over, I don't know, I think every college is different. Mine was like a lot of Greek life, so there was kind of a structure of popularity, at least within groups, but it just really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Like, the people that I was constantly thinking about in college as like, oh, or even high school, and like, as like, oh, like popular, whatever, like, it literally doesn't matter. And I was actually talking to my sister the other day. We were looking through people's Instagrams of like people that were really popular when I went to high school. And it's like, not that like they're not doing good for themselves. I'm not like trying to say anything like that, but like, you just realize like everyone's just a normal person. I don't know. Maybe that's like something that like everyone knows, but like, I don't know. It took me a long time to realize that. Like, it just really doesn't matter. The only sense where I would say popularity and being well liked and being well known is beneficial is in the professional sense. And I think that that, also goes hand in hand with networking. But I'm talking about more of like a social thing. I know this gets circulated a lot, and I know that I'm sure you've heard everybody say this at least a couple times, but if they wanted to, they would. This goes for men. This goes for friends. If they wanted to, they would. You should not have to beg or hope or even ask somebody to do something that's like should be the bare minimum. Like, you really shouldn't. And another one that I have that goes hand in hand with this goes more for relationships with men. But if they care about you, telling them how you feel would not scare them away, and vice versa. Hiding how you feel for someone isn't going to make them stay. Let that sink in for a second. It's not going to make them stay, and it's not going to scare them away. If they're meant to be, it'll be. End of story. But also in your 20s, you learn a lot about balance and mental health and self-care. And I was always, for a lot of my life, I kind of pushed off self-care and mental health and, shoved it all down, deal with it later kind of mentality. But obviously that's not beneficial in the long run, especially. Balance is everything. Post-grad, college, just throughout your life in general. Just have fun with yourself, but also take care of yourself. Your body is your temple. I know for me, like, my main mental challenge is body image, and it's always kind of been a mental challenge, but it really got a lot worse in college. And that's something that I really haven't quite figured out yet, but I'll get there. It's okay. The thing is, like, this like isn't specific to in your 20s, but it is between like 19 and 21. Puberty stops in females, and your body will change. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But regardless, it will change, and it can be quite shocking. And getting comfortable with that and saying, okay, this is how my body wants to be, is very hard to do, but very beneficial, because I go in and out of it. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, I feel good. I feel comfortable in my skin. And then other times I'm like, why do I look like this? You know what I mean? And it sucks. It really does. But, I know also a lot of girls are on birth control, and birth control can have a huge effect as well. I remember I switched my birth control. I was taking this one pill for literally like 5 years or so. And then I was tired of taking a pill, so I switched to the arm implant. I don't recommend it. It made me gain almost 30 pounds within 2 weeks. So that was really shocking for me. But it's not also because of medication. Like, it's also because your body is just maturing, and it needs time to be comfortable and be at a weight where it's happy. It's okay that your body doesn't look like what it did when you were 16 years old. That is okay. Because you know what comes with that? Having boobs and a butt. I'm telling you. It's amazing. There's also like so many life skills that are so essential that are so overlooked, I feel. Like cooking is one of them. I got really into cooking my junior year, which was when I was 20. And I don't know, like now I know so many people at my age that like don't know how to cook, and I'm like, that's like an essential life skill. Like cooking, cleaning, time management, all those things, like it's better to learn them now and get comfortable. Like time management, I don't think there's like a strict way on how to do it. I think it's just whatever works for you. Like for me, I like to crack down, start it in the morning, and then have the end of my day between like 5 to when I go to bed as my time for myself. But I work all day, every day, pretty much. But all these skills are so necessary, and especially seeing people now like still not have these skills is scary almost for them. Like even communication, like some people really don't know how to communicate even now. And it's really telling. Like you can tell because most people do, but the ones that don't really stick out because of it. Something that you really learn is that 60, 50, 40, all those ages really are not that old because you're really like halfway, like a quarter there. You know what I mean? Every year goes by quicker and it's honestly horrifying. So, I don't know. I stopped calling people old at like 60 and 50 and 40, probably when I hit almost 20, because you just realize like you're already at 2 decades. There's only two more until you're 40, which is horrifying. But I am excited to be 30. I think 30 would be fun. Another thing I have learned is knowing what the problem is does not solve the problem. You can identify the problem, you can acknowledge the problem, but it doesn't do anything unless you actually sit down and try and fix it. Let that sink in. Life is short, and once you hit 20, or especially when you leave college, you become responsible for everything that happens in your life. Everything. From finding a job to figuring out housing. I know I am very lucky to be living at home and living rent-free, but a lot of people don't. And you really get to see that, especially when you're 20 and everyone else around you is, paying their rent and stressing about groceries and all this stuff. Like, especially when you leave college, your plan becomes completely only something that you can create and destroy. Because up until then, there's always a plan, there's always academic advisors, there's always general guide of what to follow. But once college is over, there's no guide. There's nothing telling you what's right and wrong. There's nothing that confirms that you're on the right path. And I just want to put a lot of emphasis on the fact that if you are already in your 20s or if you're approaching your 20s, it is scary, but it's also a really good sense of community because I promise you, no matter what you see on social media or what you see like your friends doing, what your parents telling you, like what they were doing, like I promise you, everybody is struggling in their 20s, whether it be financially, mentally, in any way. Everybody is struggling. That's okay. So that's what I have to say about being in your 20s. It's not easy, but it is an amazing time. And I do love my 20s so far. And I'm very excited to see what my 20s bring later. But I just really wanted to do this episode for Reagan and all of her friends that watch my podcast because you guys are all turning 20 or just turned 20. So next week, we are talking all about body image. I'm a little nervous for this episode, but I think it is something that needs to be talked about. And I have no problem being open and honest with you guys. So that is the topic next week. So definitely stay tuned or don't. If you don't want to watch it, that's fine. I know that can be a sensitive topic. Thank you so much for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. And this was Diaries of a 20-something, episode 8.